Alright, so today we're doing something entirely different. We're doing something that should have been done years ago. We are going to finish and stain our deck, which has never been stained. So the deck that I'm on right now, this is actually a twice recycled deck. We bought this. It came in sections with our camper when we bought our camper 10, 11 years ago when we first moved onto the property. And the people that had the deck, they had recycled it from somebody previous to them. So we're not actually sure how old the deck boards are, but they're probably at least 15 years old. After we put the double white here, we decided to keep the decking boards because they were still in good shape, and we went through and we built this with it. But now, after 10 years, it's had a lot of wear and tear. Mold starts building up on here, it gets really slippery, and some of the boards are starting to rot. Actually, right through here you can see some of the mold. So we went through and power washed it, and of course we knew it was gonna flick it up. I probably wouldn't have power washed it so hard if I known we're gonna use a really thick coating over top, but you see some of the spots where there's still just a little bit of mold on it, and some spots where it was definitely rotting away right here. So these areas where it's prickering up. It's really soft, pliable wood. Hi, Ginger. This whole board should honestly be replaced, but I don't think we have any spares anywhere, so this should probably, I don't know what you could do for that. So put your comments down below what you would do for something like that instead of replacing it. And honestly, that might have been replacement number 2. I know there was a board we did go through and replace because it had broken all the way through. I mean, you can do it to get the top half up there. Not the roof, but the top part. There you go. You're pretty wet. You're a little wet.
Yeah.
It's okay. Dude, that stuff's blowing everywhere.
Yeah.
Might be why they don't usually blow it. We'll touch base when this is all done. So the deck more or less looks dry, at least according to the directions. So we are going to go ahead and start spraying it. Now we've actually taken the power auger power head units, and we have a paint stirrer stuck on the end of it. This stuff is super duper thick. There were a lot of complaints about this material that even using a stirring stick and shaking it, you cannot get it to mix. So besides digging holes, the power auger head unit is great for mixing things, and of course you can swap the batteries onto any DeWalt tool. Eric's fun contraption.
This is going to be our setup. We'll see if it works. This is a gravel guard texture gun I use at work for spraying rocker guard on cars. So we're going to see if we can spray this material through there. We might have to thin it. We don't know. It's trial by error.
Trial by error?
Yep.
Or trial by Eric?
That's right.
So this material you actually can thin down with water, unlike this. So he had to drag the air compressor over here to put this whole thing together. He did buy a separate paint sprayer, but he decided that he doesn't want to try to use that.
Well, this is more controlled.
So what type of paint sprayer did you originally buy for this? That would probably...
Wagner, for doing like textured walls. Like you put like joint compound in it, like a pancake.
Like a plaster
like
sprayer?
Popcorn finish, like a knockdown finish, which maybe we'll use it in the future on a new house if you want textured walls. Or ceiling, textured ceiling.
All right.
Dun, 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 color reveal.
Yeah, so they did mix this at the store, or shook it. They shook it. So we'll see what it looks like. That looks a lot more brown than what the paint swatch made it look like.
I'm sure it dries a different color.
Maybe. Yeah, this looks like diarrhea poop color. Wow, that's not even... Oh, there it goes. You can see it moving a little bit. I don't even think it's hardly stirring. Look at that.
Like chocolate pudding.
Oh, I wouldn't call it chocolate pudding. I wouldn't be giving it that much credit.
We can thin it down too. It doesn't have to be this thin.
No, it's possible that the darker coloring might be at the bottom.
Oh.
You don't think so?
Oh, this is the color you wanted.
No, this is more brownish, reddish than what we agreed on.
Definitely did it. Those look black in the shade.
Yeah. So Eric wanted to try to match this color, but it would have looked black on the deck. I wanted something just a couple tones up from that.
I think we might have to put water in there. I don't think...
You don't think that's gonna
shoot through there.
I don't think it even suctioned it up. Not even trying to spray it. I don't think it could suck it. It's like a really thick milkshake. Kind of looks like a thick milkshake.
Heat up some water.
Oh no! Oh, that's pretty dry.
That's good.
This is gonna be a little tricky to mix in. We'll revisit this in a little bit. Overall, we were pretty disappointed with the Rustoleum based stain. It was thick, but it wasn't applying the correct coat that it should have been put down, nor was it the color that was shown in the color swatch. And it was just very messy. Overall, we just were not thrilled with it. I believe this particular one said it required 3 coats, and that was a lot of work. Meanwhile, the Pittsburg brand paint stain was so much more improved. This one said you needed 2 coats, and you probably could have gotten away with 1 if you had a nice deck. Our deck was very weathered, very old, and slightly rotten, so 2 coats did a wonderful job on it. It went down smoothly. Both of them had to be watered down to go through Eric's spray gun, but I think overall the Pittsburg won out with this. It was much easier to spray, and it was definitely far easier to paint. While Eric had managed to get a lot of the material down with his sprayer, I still had to go through and do all the remaining items with the paintbrush. And coat number 2 had to be done with the paintbrush to be able to effectively work it right down into the cracks. It was long, it was tedious, but it looked so much better. So it took a combined total of 4 days, and we're still not done. 2 days to power wash and 2 days to paint it. And here is the mostly finished product. Now I say mostly finished because the floor technically was the only thing that got 2 coats. I didn't have the time or the energy to do 2 coats on any of the railings. So the first coat, Eric actually went through and sprayed this, and you can see it didn't fill in the cracks. Actually right here, that almost gave me a splinter. However, I did do this one with 2 coats, and even though you can see the cracks right through here, I think that's honestly because the next day after I put coat number 2 down, it still wasn't dry, even though our temperatures were about 60 degrees. And then we had rain. So I think that kind of affected some of the deeper cracks. Some of these deeper holes filled up with water, and you can see it still is a little squishy right in there. And probably this one too. Maybe that will finish curing, I don't know. But overall, this did an amazing job filling in the majority of the cracks. And even though it's not full, it will at least help a little bit prevent these from getting any larger. So if we are to do it again, here's what I would suggest. First of all, you don't use the primer, because the primer just seemed to solidify everything straight up like hairspray, as far as the fibers and all of the little bits and pieces. Secondly, I would suggest you go through and you paintbrush and roll on coat number 1. The reason is the paintbrush will work it deep down into those cracks, and the roller will kind of add the texture. The roller, I don't think is actually meant to be used to apply the material. I think it's just meant to go over it after you've applied the material. And since the stuff does pretty much mostly dry within the first 10 minutes or so, you're gonna have to work in very small sections, painting the material on and then rolling it. The other thing is, I wouldn't suggest using the Rustoleum rollers because they tended to leave too much texture. It didn't take long for them to come apart and leave traces of the pokey material all over the deck, which this material actually is pokier than the wood fibers themselves. Yeah, and you're not gonna go back through and scrape those back off. After you've gotten coat number 1, if you still have a lot of cracks, I would definitely recommend going through and paint brushing it again for coat number 2. If you don't, and if you've managed to seal most of the cracks, I would then go through and I would spray it. Now the reason I don't recommend spraying it first is because, again, it blows the fibers up and it tends to stick them straight up. Right here you can see these fibers all sticking up. Now granted, this only got 1 coat so far. I don't think a second coat is going to help those fibers a whole lot. See how they're all standing straight up? If you'd gone through and coated them first with a paintbrush, it would have flattened them down, and then you could have gone through and sprayed them for second coats. Now this is a railing, so it is kind of unfortunate that this is so pokey. And then we had 1 mishap from the rain, and that was right here. I'm not exactly sure what's going on right here, but it's just this area right here. Now our grill does set right here, so it's surprising that this area back here was the area that turned white. And it does seem like it might potentially come off. So I'll have to work on that a little bit more and see what happens. The other recommendation is, if you're gonna go through and you're gonna spray it, cover your house in sheet plastic. You can pick it up really cheap, just get some painter's tape, tape it to the side of your house, tape it down securely, and then have at it, because it will blow. Even if you're over here and you're spraying it, it will still blow and hit the side of the house right here. And it's a pain in the butt to try to scrape off. It will come off if you have hot boiling vinegar water, but still not worth doing. Overall though, I am definitely impressed with this material's ability to go through and fill in the cracks. I definitely did a lot better job than I was expecting, and I would say it's definitely comparable to the 20X Rustoleum. This area right here, if you remember me pointing it out, shoot, you could almost go through and fill that with caulk if you wanted to. That probably should have been done before I went through and stained it, honestly, but anyway, at least if you kick it, it's not necessarily going to stab you in the foot. This one might, but this one's pretty good. And now we have our little prickers right here, some more of the porcupines right through there. And I think, you know, if you ended up with porcupines like that after washing, maybe go through and just blast it a little bit with a belt sander, or get a really big block of sandpaper and just sand it down to just knock those little hairs off. Now, as far as the color comes out, Eric wanted to match the color of the barn, and honestly, I think it's pretty good. That's another benefit of this brand of covering, is that you can color match it to anything you want. They can do that. The Rustoleum, you are locked into only their colors. So we have Pittsburg Revitalize, resurfacer and sealant for the win. This one's heavy to moderate restoration. Also worth noting, do not get it on your clothes because it really doesn't want to come off. And I've got like 3 pairs of pants that I'm going to try to power wash and see if I can get it off that way. Yeah, my True Work pants, my beloved True Work pants, they were great for this project, but I assumed they would wash out. They probably would have if it had been wet when I first took them off, but they were dry. So I'll keep you posted on that one. In the meantime, you can see we've got that bottom part that still needs to be painted. And little Aaron, 10-year-old Aaron, he did from this portion of the deck all the way down to the very last rail of the railing all by himself. And he did a pretty good job. I mean, it definitely didn't work it into some of these cracks, but this was coat number 1 after all. And you know, little things like this. But I mean, overall, the kid just blew me away with his ability to paint the deck. I think something hit that. I don't think that was from him. No, that was from me, because he can't reach up that high. So he really did great. There's a couple little spots that he missed, but honestly, he did great. I was really impressed. 10 years old, he offered to help. I mean, you get a couple things like this every once in a while, but... And then this is going to need another coat to go through and possibly try to fill this in. I don't even know if that's going to work, because that's a pretty good size crack. Same thing was right here. And these only got 1 coating, so this will probably need another coat too. And then the railing, this didn't get done. And then this is 1 coat right here. You can see the difference. This is what the stairs look like, and this is what spraying does. So you can do a test if you want to do spraying versus painting, but it just basically puts a light coat down. It doesn't fill in the gaps. This is painting it with 1 coat, and it fills in a lot of the cracks, but not everything. I definitely don't recommend doing that very often. It is a pain in the butt. My arms are still recovering. So anyway, guys, put your comments down below and your thoughts down below. Thanks for watching. All right, so we have my 2 of my pairs of True Work pants. I made the mistake of covering the deck in like a stain texture coating thing, and then of course, as sloppy as this stuff is, it got all over my pants. And I've washed them twice and not dried them, not in the dryer, and it would not come off. I can kind of peel it off a little bit with my hands, but let's face it, there's no way I'm going to peel all this off. And I wear these every single day, so I don't want to have to give them up because they have paint on them. So we are going to power wash this in the power washer and see if it'll come off. Now, I don't recommend doing this with your pants, but the True Work pants are so tough and durable. I'm pretty confident they can withstand it. I mean, I haven't gotten any holes in any of my pants at all, and I don't even know how many years I've had them now. I love them to death. They're tough. So these are T2s, so they're not my lightest ones either. These are T1s. Yep, we'll see what we can do. Let's get it rolling. Oh, it did it! It got it off! Look at it, it's gone! That whole chunk, look, left just a little bit of a stain right there. But not like what it was. If I can find a different way to attach these to something so they're not moving, and then I'll show you what it looks like when I'm done. Alright, here's the verdict. Alright, so this is the back of the T2s. Again, it's a little bit tricky because I am in the grass. I don't have any way to hold them down. These were actually a little bit harder to do because the material is a lot more pliable, and I just wanted to kind of bunch up. But holy cow. I'm honestly, I mean, they're not worn through at all. And that was on the turbo nozzle. That was the super blaster nozzle that I used. And it didn't adversely affect the pants in any way, shape, or form. And more to the point, it did pull off the material. Now, it was water-based, but again, the washer wouldn't pull it off. And even picking it off was kind of questionable. But the way this material is woven, it doesn't really allow that stuff to set in and bind to it. So these things are just absolutely fantastic. I'd be curious to see what happens with oil-based, if it would still work with oil-based. You might have to soak them in vinegar and then power wash them, but let me know what you think.